Now, a U.S. federal judge has dismissed charges against two high-profile officials who previously investigated Donald Trump. The judge ruled that the prosecutor overseeing both cases, Lindsay Halligan, had been hired unlawfully. She'd been handpicked by the president, who publicly called for the former FBI Director James Comey and the New York Attorney General Letitia James to be charged. The pair have welcomed the ruling, saying the charges against them were motivated by retaliation. Ms. James described the latest ruling as a victory, while Mr. Comey said the case against him was based on malevolence and incompetence. The prosecutor had been appointed by Mr. Trump after her predecessor refused to bring charges against Mr. Comey and Ms. James. The Trump administration has denied weaponizing the justice system. The White House press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, said the Justice Department would appeal both decisions.
No, because Lindsay Halligan was legally appointed, and that's the administration's position. I know there was a judge who is clearly trying to shield Letitia James and James Comey from receiving accountability, and that's why they took this unprecedented action to throw away the indictments against these two individuals. But the Department of Justice will be appealing very soon, and it is our position that Lindsay Halligan is extremely qualified for this position, but more importantly, was legally appointed to it.
Karoline Leavitt. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now on the line from London by Arise special correspondent James Blue. James, good to see you, and thank you ever so much for joining us. Tell us more about why a federal judge dismissed charges against these two high-profile officials who previously investigated Donald Trump. I understand the court decided that the prosecutor in the case was improperly and unlawfully appointed.
And, it's nothing to do with the merits of the case. Basically, what happened, the Trump administration has been trying to get indictments against both Letitia James, the Attorney General for the state of New York, and James Comey, the former director of the FBI, for many, many, many months since he took office. And what happened within the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Virginia, which generally handles cases related to Washington, D.C. sort of wrongdoing, the staff prosecutors refused to issue the indictment. And this was a staff person who was very happy to work with Donald Trump. And when it came to this particular issue, he decided to resign. On the resignation of that U.S. attorney, President Trump nominated and appointed Lindsay Halligan to that position. She was his personal attorney in some of the cases from the investigations into the missing documents that were stored in his house in Florida, and in the issue related to the assault and the surge on the U.S. Capitol at the end of the Trump first term. And she has very little prosecutorial experience. And so what the judge decided was that her appointment, her sort of evolution and elevation to this office was illegal. It was not proper, and all the decisions that she sort of was involved in, all of the indictments that she filed, have been voided. This is not in any way a statement on the case. It's just a statement on the process that got her in the position to be the prosecutor in these important cases. So basically, they have to go back and start at ground zero. They're right at the very beginning.
Right. So just to be clear, James, it was the appointment process that was the problem here, not necessarily the case against the two people who were charged. I mean, so those cases can be tried again, or do they appear to be very weak because they were essentially brought for retaliatory purposes, and they are cases that other prosecutors refuse to bring?
Yeah, the cases in both instances are very, very challenging cases. In the instance of Letitia James, who, again, is the Attorney General of the state of New York, she bought a second property in Virginia, and on her documents to get her mortgage, she put that this was a primary residence, and in fact, it's actually a secondary residence. I think she has a niece living there. The issue is that because she put it down as a primary residence, it's possible that she may have gotten more favorable treatment by the banks and gotten a better loan. This is a common mistake. Many people make it. It's generally not something that's prosecuted. And so she has said that basically what is happening because of her efforts, she is the one prosecutor who's gotten convictions against Donald Trump. Because of those efforts, she is being retaliated against. And now that is really the crux of the case against James. The case against James Comey, the former FBI director, is a bit more complex, that he basically lied during testimony before Congress when he was the FBI director. The problem with that case is that the charges were filed and the indictments issued just days before the statute of limitations were set to expire. So it is unclear whether that case will actually be able to be refiled and new indictments issued because of the deadline that has passed that you're supposed to be prosecuted and indicted before that deadline. And so we'll just have to see. The Trump administration has said they're going to refile in both instances, and we'll just have to see what happens.
Now, both sets of charges, against James Comey and Letitia, both of them were approved by a grand jury, which is the system in America where a group of peers or ordinary Americans look at the evidence to decide whether there could or could not be a successful prosecution. And the grand jury did say that both of them should face trial. Could that be because the presentation to a grand jury is a one-sided presentation by the prosecutor?
Well, the grand jury presentation is only the prosecutor. There is no sort of defense participant in that process. However, in the case of James Comey, the inexperienced prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, has admitted that the actual final charge sheet was not seen by the entire grand jury, but it was just seen by the grand jury foreman. She subsequently revised that and said it had been seen by the entire grand jury, but Comey's attorneys are using that mistake to try to avoid these charges further. We'll see what happens. In the case of Letitia James, yes, there was a full grand jury and they did come back with an indictment. So it seems that if they were to try again, that those charges could be filed again. Lindsay Halligan is no longer the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. She's now a special attorney within the Department of Justice. We're not exactly sure what that means, but we believe it will give her jurisdiction to return these indictments to a grand jury and continue the prosecution of these two stated enemies of President Trump.
Okay, James, thank you very much indeed. There was a bit of interruption there, other voices sort of seeping in. We're not quite sure where that's coming from, but thank you very much indeed. Arise special correspondent James Blue talking to me on the line there from London.